Hi, this is Dave O'Mara, and this is 5 by 5 on Monday, May 23rd, 2005. Today I'm going to continue with the death of the homunculus, my personal intellectual history, and I'm going to be talking about the episode of the rational crazy guy. This occurred in January 1981, I believe, when I had just started my job as third shift security guard at Presidential Plaza,
also known as Section 154, from 15/9/1931, which would be September 15th, 1931. And this section is about clouds.
The press criticized it for playing into the hands of
Clouds.
conservatives and that sort of thing, but
It was quite a powerful piece. She wrote an article, the one that I'm concerned about here, it was published in 4 sections in the New Yorker, 4 episodes, 4 continuations, and it was just called Creedmoor in the table of contents. I recently found it again at the UWM library, went and looked it up, and actually I was surprised to find that it was published in May and June of that year. I had thought it was possibly published on their velocities and accelerations, or in mathematical terms, the differential equation of the motion would be of the first order in the first case, that's where it depends only on position, and of the third order in the second case, and that's the one where roughly it depends on
about 4 hours each
variation
night
in the
I would spend in that lobby. On a very, very cold night, 10 below at least, outside, and Syracuse doesn't get that cold compared to Wisconsin, which is at the same latitude, but it got very cold that night, and this guy comes up to the door in shirt sleeves and kind of raggedy clothes, and wants a place to stay for the night. He wants an apartment, and this, of course, I pretty quickly sized penthouse apartments that had once gone for $1,000 a month were now going for maybe $750, and the prices on the less fashionable floors may have deflated even more. The downtown around it, downtown Syracuse, was getting kind of dodgy. One of the two beauties of poetic depression, or of the poetic soul, depressed by its very existence, and there are parallels with my own life in here, in that I've filled up many pages with depressed literary alcohol, never as good as this. Always simply who called the police, and we generally figured they were going to come with a warm car and take him somewhere. When the police arrived a few minutes later, the first thing the officer said was, and he said this to the guy, he said, "I told you to stay on that bench. You had a warm place for the night. Why didn't you stay there?"
This is a typical.
So obviously the guy had been in the police station earlier that night and had gotten up and wandered off into the cold,
God talks to me
looking for an apartment.
The voice is an imp in my head. I'm a good friend of Mike Nichols and Diane von Furstenberg. I first met Geraldo Rivera when I was in Elmhurst. John Travolta's father is the Shadow. I think the Cowardly Lion was secretly married to Judy Garland. I'm going to marry Lyle Waggoner, who plays Steve Trevor, and on and on and on. But the orbits will become circular, because that's what natural law is in this supposed world. As soon as the disturbing cause has disappeared, it would only be when the perturbing body is remote, when it's gone through and it's gone far away, when the orbits, instead of being circular, are now found to be elliptical, that the astronomers would find out their mistake.
It was
and discover
8 hours. Those are the nights when I was unable to sleep during the day before. It was 8 hours of a dark night of the soul. But on the nights when I did get enough to sleep, the lobby of Jefferson Towers was an intellectual and imaginative paradise. I would write, or more likely read, all night with fury and with passion. What struck me then, incredible range and began to become part of this story of the death of the homunculus for me, was the contrast between this guy's behavior in that he, in one sense, he was obviously profoundly mentally ill, and also, in another sense, totally rational in pursuit of his objectives. His objective that night was to stay someplace where people were nice to him, in other words, an emergency room, and not the police station, although
part of it, experience that they have would be different.